But now on to the latest 11 Alive investigation and a contentious issue for everyone, divorce, of course. But some parents are saying it's being made worse by some folks who are meant to offer a neutral voice in all this. Rebecca Lindstrom investigating this issue and joins us now. Rebecca?
Yeah, we're talking about guardians ad litem, and I think we were here chatting about this a few weeks ago, initially when some moms came forward and said, hey, we feel like this is essentially someone that is court appointed when you've got these contentious divorces, and the judge just feels like he needs to hear from someone outside of the situation who has had time to go in, do some interviews, analyze the situation to decide really who's going to be able to meet the needs of this kid best when deciding custody. The challenge comes that some of these parents just feel like this process has no accountability, that misinformation is being shared in court, that their voice really isn't being heard by this person who they feel is taking sides very early on in the process. Now, we have no way to know if that is the case, but what we do know is that there is no formal complaint system for guardians if you do feel like you have a problem. We do know that there is no registration for guardians. No one can tell you how many have actually gone through any type of training to officially become a guardian ad litem in the state. And so this really is kind of an unregulated aspect that has a lot of control in the process.
Wow.
And so, some people after we did our first story said, well, what about some legislation? Can we do something about this? And so we went down to the Capitol as one mom tried to seek lawmakers' attention, and this is what she found.
How are you?
Kitty Mayo stands along the ropes that line the Georgia Senate.
I wrote some legislation and we're trying to get somebody to carry it.
Unable to get a sit-down appointment.
Don't come down here, if you don't like crowds.
She has been waiting more than an hour.
I'm going to wait here. You tell me to wait here, I'm going to wait here.
Waiting to find a senator willing to hear why she feels the state needs to make guardians ad litem more accountable.
And he does know you are waiting out.
Mayo is working on 2 other family court-related bills through her group, Georgia Protective Parents. She is not a professional lobbyist. She is just a mom fighting for change.
I'm in a mom's group, and in that group, there was a consistent theme. And the same consistent theme was the guardians. And they all told the same story.
It's the story we heard in emails and phone calls from mothers, fathers, and grandparents who, like the women in our first story, felt the guardians assigned to their custody cases overstepped their authority or misrepresented information in court.
In fact, the crux of the reporting omitted witness testimony that I provided and that people in my life provided. And there was no checks and balances in that reporting.
When I brought these things to my attorney, I was told basically it would not go well in my favor if I complained or challenged this person.
Most of the people that reached out to 11 Alive were parents unhappy with the custody arrangements made by the court. But they are right. Guardians can play a big role in the decision. And despite that power, the state has no formal process to review qualifications or investigate complaints.
I'd like to see that there is a registry and more oversight.
We should require a lot more of them in terms of training and ethics and actual education, because it's not just our experiences, our trauma collectively that we now share going through this, but our child.
The law already requires guardians to have training on a number of topics, but since there's no registration process, the quality of that training is inconsistent and rarely verified.
We have got to get back to very strong evidence-based rulings for our children.
There is no knowledge of post-divorce abuse. It is emotional abuse, financial abuse, and legal abuse.
For Mayo, this bill isn't about her case.
I was calling to see if I could get an appointment with Senator Strickland.
But instead, it is for all the custody cases to come.
It's a busy day today.
For those families, Mayo says she'll be back at the Capitol tomorrow, looking for someone to listen.
Miss Mayo not giving up. I love that. I love that angle of finding somebody willing to do anything to make their situation a little better, including tracking down lawmakers where they work.
She thought she had a sponsor for this idea, and then that lawmaker kind of came to her in the 11th hour, right when she thought it was going to be introduced, and said, I've just got too many bills that I'm fronting right now. I believe in what you're trying to do, but I'm not the person who has the bandwidth to carry it. I think we kind of forget. We think that lawmakers just introduce a bill and then they sit back and let the process play out. But if you are the sponsor of a bill, you have to go to all the committee meetings, all the hearings. So if you sponsor it in the Senate, you're committed to several meetings to sort of front and lobby for this idea.
Yeah.
And then even when it goes into the House, you're going to have someone, in the House that might champion it, but you're still going to come and try to get involved and explain why you feel this needs to take place. So when you do make the decision to sponsor a bill, it's not just putting your name on a piece of paper. There really is a time and lobbying commitment that's involved. And so it is fair, I think, for a lawmaker to say, I'm just overstretched. I've got to stay committed to the things I've already, introduced. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you feel like you've got something that really needs to be heard, it's hard to keep getting that no.
Gosh, guardian ad litem. I was not familiar with it before. Is this unique to Georgia? Do they have these in other states?
They do. They're used differently in other states. So we have them in our juvenile court process. If you ever think of a child that comes into foster care, there is a guardian ad litem that is assigned to that child, but there is oversight over that process because that's taking place within, sort of a state structured system. So there is specific training, there is oversight, there is a complaint process, but what we're talking about here is when that role, which is usually an attorney, someone who knows the law, is assigned by a judge to do this special role and spend this time with the family and do their evaluations and write a report to the court. And it is when it is used in our family court system that none of that oversight structure exists. I mean, if you had a complaint, you would take it to the judge. But remember, the judge is the same person who kind of
appointed
this individual. They're in the court all the time together. And most of these parents say that their complaints have kind of, they have felt that they have been washed, or swept under the rug. And even their own attorneys, as you heard one mom say, they're just advised, don't rock the boat. It's not going to look good for you if you're the one sitting in court complaining.
Okay. What's the next step in this investigation for you?
I think it's going to be seeing if some legislation does get introduced. We know here in Georgia, you've only got a certain period of time. I know it comes up in March. Can't remember the exact date, but in March where a bill has to make it, first has to be introduced. It's got to go through committee and it's got to make it out of one chamber for it to even continue to be considered. So if they get that step done, then we'll continue to follow it as it goes through the next chamber. Otherwise, given the number of emails we've received on this issue, I am sure we will continue discussing this as we head into the next legislative session. I don't think this is an issue that's going to go away.
Okay. Rebecca Lindstrom, thank you very much.